Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are breaking down an absolutely foundational text in ancient literature. We're going to look closely at a narrative that reads honestly like one of the most famous high-stakes courtroom dramas ever recorded, The Fall and the Judgment of Man. We'll be walking systematically through the exact source text just to see how this ancient trial unfolds, piece by piece.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Our source text begins not with a statement, but with an intense, pinpoint interrogation. The narrative kicks off the entire sequence of events with the piercing question from the ultimate authority figure in the text. Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you not to eat? I mean, it is the ultimate caught in the act moment, right? This singular inquiry completely shatters the status quo and sets the stage for literally every consequence that follows. Section 1. The Blame Game.
So when faced with this direct questioning, the characters don't exactly, step up to take the fall. Instead, we see a highly relatable psychological domino effect. Step 1, the man is questioned. His response? The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit of the tree and I ate. Notice how quickly he not only blames the woman, but subtly points the finger right back at the ultimate authority for giving her to him in the first place. Talk about throwing everyone under the bus at record speed. Then, step 2. The authority turns to the woman, and her response passes the buck even further down the line. The serpent deceived me, and I ate. It is just a flawless, instantaneous chain of deflection.
Section 2. Cursing the Serpent.
With the testimonies given, the narrative shifts pretty swiftly into the sentencing phase. Starting at the very bottom of the blame chain with the instigator, the text lays out a systematic physical demotion for the serpent. It's declared cursed above all livestock and above all beasts of the field. We see a literal physical lowering described right in the source material. It's sentenced to go on its belly and to eat dust for all the days of its life. The creature is completely stripped of whatever former status it held and is just permanently grounded in the dirt.
Now, what's really interesting here is how the judgment abruptly shifts from a mere physical punishment to a massive multi-generational decree. The text reads, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. This establishes a perpetual, ongoing conflict between the serpent and humanity. It's not just a localized, one-time punishment. It's a permanent state of war written directly into the fabric of this narrative's reality.
Moving on to Section 3, Consequences for the Woman. Moving to the second verdict in this courtroom sequence, the first part of the consequence for the woman is profoundly physical. The text states, I will surely multiply your pain and childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. The narrative objectively introduces physical suffering here, specifically tying it to the very act of bringing forth human life. The creation of life is now just intrinsically interwoven with intense difficulty. But the judgment doesn't stop at physical pain. It extends deeply into the social realm too. We see the phrase, your desire shall be for your husband, instantly juxtaposed with, and he shall rule over you. The text explicitly dictates a major shift in social hierarchy, turning the partnership between the man and the woman into a much more fraught, complex structure of desire and dominion.
Section 4. Consequences for the man.
Arriving at the final verdict, this judgment dramatically alters the human relationship with the earth itself. Notice the specific phrasing used. Cursed is the ground because of you. It's a vital distinction, actually, because the man himself is not explicitly called cursed like the serpent was just a few verses earlier. Rather, the environment he relies on is fundamentally broken as a direct result of his actions. Let's see how this builds, because these consequences cascade one into the other to define a really harsh new reality. Because the ground is cursed, it brings forth thorns and thistles. Sustenance no longer comes easily. It requires eating bread by the sweat of your face. Human labor is permanently transformed into a continuous, exhausting struggle for survival. And that struggle ultimately leads to this. So the crucial point is, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. This is perhaps one of the most iconic and universally recognizable phrases in all literature. Here, the text officially introduces human mortality. The sweat, the thorns, well, they're all temporary, because the ultimate consequence is the inescapable reality of death. Section 5. Entering a new reality. With the verdicts handed down, the courtroom scene essentially concludes, and the world is changed forever. Yet, despite the heavy pronouncements of pain and mortality we just talked about, the text offers a fascinating pivot. It simply states, the man called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. It's a brief but really powerful affirmation of life. Even as death is introduced, they are already looking toward the continuation of generations. And this brilliantly illustrates the complex dual nature of the narrative's conclusion. On one hand, we have the ultimate judgment, the cold reality of returning to dust. But contrasted against this, the text notes that the Lord God made for Adam and for his wife garments of skins and clothed them. It's an undeniable act of provision. It contrasts the severe harshness of the punishments with an immediate, tangible act of care for their new environment. Which brings us to a final critical question. We've mapped out the source text of this ancient trial, but how does this sequence of judgment and consequence continue to shape our cultural understanding of human struggle and mortality today? I mean, whether you look at our relationship to labor, the friction in human dynamics, or even just our acute awareness of our own mortality, this foundational cause and effect narrative echoes loudly in our modern worldview. I encourage you to really reflect on how these ancient themes still permeate the way we think about the human condition today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope it leaves you eager to keep exploring